Okay, it's Diane again, and I wanted to share this junk journal that I just completed. I didn't know who I was making it for, but my sister and my niece were here. My niece is, I can't remember, she's either 19 or 20. But when she saw this image, she fell in love with it. And the book was not completed yet, but it was pretty close. And I told her she could have it when I was done with it, and she was so excited. I'm looking for, I think this is the book that I made for myself with, yes, this is the book I made for myself, and I showed it with Tsunami Rose's Charming Fragments. But I only used half of the papers and a lot of the cut-aparts, the ephemera, in here. So I used the other half of the papers and the rest of the ephemera in this book. So this book is, The Trail of the Lonesome Pine by John Fox Jr., but I bought it because I just loved that image. And I just sealed it with Mod Podge, or glossy, what's it called? It's kind of, you can use it the same as Mod Podge. And I put some rose trim here and a few little pieces. This metal piece says "Follow Your Heart." And it's got 3 signatures stitched in, and then I sealed the back also, just to protect it from further damage. And I made this pretty little charm dangle for it. So I'll just show you quickly what's inside. I glued this paper on the front. It's a K & Company paper, and I used my new stamp with a Big Shot cut, die cut for this book belongs to. I put a few tabs on the edges of the papers. The papers are coffee dyed. There's some vintage paper in here too, a little bit. This is just a tuck spot with a cigarette card on it that Leanda Miller sent me from Australia. And then the papers, the ephemera is stitched onto coffee dyed paper and tucked in here. This is my 1930s ledger paper with a couple of ephemera pieces glued on. This one has a little bit of a doily imprint there. And I stitched on this satin ribbon and this little bit of pink trim there. Some more ephemera here. This is a freebie from Ephemera's Vintage Garden, and these are Tsunami Rose. This one is stitched onto a scrap piece of coffee dyed paper. And this one is backed with coffee dyed lined paper. Stamp in the corner. The vellum architect paper that someone sent to me. This is a little cutout from a book. It was an old journal that I had from the 1980s. And I didn't use much of it, but it had some really nice vintage pictures in it, so I cut it up. And this is another Big Shot die cut with a piece of ephemera stitched on it. Here's the front page from this book, and it shows, I cut this part out of the copyright page and glued it on, and it's 1908. And it has washi tape on the edge because it's kind of brittle paper. I like that it has the embossed imprint from the library on it. Just glued on some pieces here. This is an illustration from the book. It's the same illustration that's on the cover. This was, I believe this one was from Yvonne White, one of her freebies, and I stitched it to this piece of K & Company cardstock. And this, I have this actual vintage postcard. It's in very fragile shape. The edges are tattered, and I just made a copy of it and trimmed it neater and stitched it to some. It's actually embossed and a little bit velvety on the original card, and I backed it with coffee dyed paper. And this is a piece of Tsunami Rose ephemera. The other piece of the vellum bag, and it has a tag with a piece of vintage sheet music out of a book and it's the song Clementine. Oh, I think I want to glue some paper to the back for writing on, because it's got a little bit of the Mod Podge on the back, because I Mod Podged this paper to it. And this has one of those little light bulb clips with a little metal disc, and it was plain, so I glued this little charm on it. And this is another die cut from my Big Shot. It's cut from copy dyed paper, and there's another cutout from that journal. And then this came out of a magazine, and I glued it to some copy dyed paper. These are just glued on to kind of, because you can see this through the vellum. This just has some washi tape on it. You can see a doily imprint. This has a curved pocket stitched on, and I added some lace and rickrack, some stamping. This is one of Denise Sayers' alterations tags. I copy dyed it. And I printed this on some ivory cardstock. This has a little vellum envelope here, and this is a piece of the Tsunami Rose ephemera that I glued to copy dyed paper. Glued a little flower, some stamping there. This is a little sack that I made with my jelly bean die, and I glued on these tickets that I cut out from scrapbook paper. This is a disc of layered, I don't know if you can see, but it's stacks of layered paper. Jill Robertson made me some of those, and I just stamped that 7 on it. And Jill Robertson also sent me this tag, which fits in there nicely. And then this paper, this photo is from a magazine, and I glued it to copy dyed paper and cut it with decollage scissors so it looks like the old decollage photos. Find joy in the little things. And here's a banner that has a definition on it. These are pages from the Tsunami Rose Charming Fragments, and I glued these little ledger papers, little pretty green ledger paper pieces on it. Second signature has some stamping, some washi tape, because this is vintage lined paper. I'll try to go a little quicker. These are 2 pieces that I stitched together to form a pocket, and some ephemera tucked inside. Some more stamping. This one has a little sack and a freebie little tag that I glued on, and some trim, and a copy dyed tag. Some washi tape, another vellum bag. This one has a little teal doily, a circle punch, and a little tiny safety pin with this little disc that says hello. I think that's a Tim Holtz. This is vintage music paper, and this is kind of a, looks like a handmade paper, but it was the front page of a book. And this is from that journal. And there's some ephemera tucked in there. This is from the front of a, or from the back of a book, the glossary page. Another piece of 1930s office paper from Towanda, Pennsylvania. The rest of the music ledger, music paper. And this one has another of the Yvonne White cards in it. I stitched it to some paper, and there's some rickrack glued here onto this bag, some mulberry paper, some fibers, and a Tim Holtz sticker that I glued on there. This is a crocheted doily, some tickets that I copy dyed, and this little piece that I had purchased at a craft store. This is from a book. Another little sack glued on as a tuck spot, and another one of Jill Robertson's tags. And these pieces that are tucked inside. Some more washi tape. This postcard is a printable, and it's stitched on as a pocket, and there's one of Tsunami Rose's Pretty Library cards. You'll see a lot of stamping on the pages. This is a die cut from my Big Shot. And the last signature, some more stamping. This is a leftover piece from Graphic 45, and I took that on as a pocket, put some more Yvonne White's printables in there. 1930s ledger paper. This one has a Tim Holtz safety pin and a couple of tags. That one has a rub-on number, and this one has a stamped word, Joy. Stitched to coffee paper. This is coffee dyed time card with a tab on it. This is a rub-on. And this is a piece of paper I got at a antique store. It had a package of these Sailors Portland Cements paper, Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and Copley, Pennsylvania. I don't know how old it is, but it's there. And this I have to glue together, glue this envelope together, and I use this piece of ephemera and use my sewing machine to stitch scraps in it to make it into a little booklet. And this one has a map envelope that I made, glued to it, and some stamped index cards in there. And the flap tucks into that little piece that I glued on. Some rub-on letters. A printable on the time card. There's a little printable tag glued on up there. And that's a coffee dyed Project Life card. And then this is a library pocket that I coffee dyed and then stamped. And this is using my new stamp. And since it's for my niece, I wrote Aunt Diane on it for my signature. And then coffee dyed library cards and a tag made from Graphic 45 paper. I used this Tim Holtz elastic, punched a hole in there, and put on the hitch post here as a fastener. So I'm sure she's going to get some use out of that and enjoy having that. And thank you very much for watching.